working with effects and object styles in InDesign. So the effects basically allow us to apply a specific look to an object to make our layouts more visually interesting. And so it's a formatting, it's a set of attributes that we're applying, very similar to what you maybe have done in Illustrator. So the effects dialog box basically is what we are going to get to, and it will show all of the available effects. So let's go ahead and open that. So if I wanted to apply an effect, say, to this frame, and this actually is a text frame, there's text on the inside, but it also has a fill on it of green. By the way, there's a really nice handy tool here called a color theme tool, and if you click on a graphic that you've placed inside of a box, it'll give you a color scheme based from that image. Very, very nice, very helpful. I can then choose to add this theme to swatches, and it can then be living here. Here's my color theme. So really nice way that I can take some of those colors out of a graphic. All right, back on track. I have my frame selected here. Let's go to the Object menu and Effects. So here are a list of all of the effects that we can apply. Now, a lot of these are non-destructive, meaning that they are not permanent. So let's go ahead and just click on one. Let's say we want to do a bevel and emboss. So I click bevel and emboss. What happens is I get my effects dialog box that will pop up. So like I said, some of these are non-destructive. Things like the drop shadow, I can turn them on, turn them off. The glows, we have inner glow, outer glow. We have bevels, we have embosses, we have feathers. All of these non-destructive or non-permanent. So when I see this, of course you probably notice all of my effects are here over on the left, and the settings are over here on the right. Now I have to make sure that I click on that effect, not just check mark it, because I can go ahead and check mark all of these and apply them all, but I'm only seeing the drop shadow settings. Okay, so you do have to make sure you know which one you have active or selected in order to realize that's what settings you are changing. Let's slide this over. The other thing I want to make sure is I have preview checked. You always want to see what is happening. So this is a really nice way that I can apply my effects. I'm going to go ahead and click OK using the default settings, and that's something you want to play with, experiment with to learn. Now once I have an effect, I can also save this effect. Let's go ahead and open a different panel. Under Window, we actually have an effects panel as well. And this effects panel will show the object that I have selected, and if I have given it an effect, which I can then open, and I can actually double click this and get to the same point. So same place, whether you have your effects panel open or you go under the Object menu and choose Effects. Okay, same list. So I can apply another effect right here as well, or if I click, I open up my effects dialog box. So again, multiple ways to do one thing. Once an effect has been applied, I see the FX icon in this effects panel, and that allows me again to reopen like I had just said. It allows me to also copy from one object to another. So say I wanted to copy this effect down to the second image, this picture box. So I'm going to select the object that has the effect applied to it. That way I see my effect in the effects panel, and I'm going to drag this little FX icon to another non-selected frame object, and you can see how it applied. You can actually visually see this one. Now when I click this, I see it has FX. So this first one that I have selected, I'm copying that effect to the second non-selected, and it will be shared. So it's a nice handy way of just linking those effects, creating something once and applying it to several. Speaking of that, if I do have a lot of frames that I want to apply an effect to, you're probably better off making an object style. So we've talked about character styles and paragraph styles, basically a saved set of attributes or formatting, we can do the same with an object. So it's the same exact thing. It's a set of formatting choices for either graphics frames, text frames, even shapes that I can then apply, and it's saved with my document. So let's go ahead and open up my object style panel. So we're going to go under Window and Styles, and this is where we located the character styles and the paragraph styles. Sandwiched right in between is the object styles. So here they are. And so the object styles, again, are ways that I can save a set of formatting attributes. So when I'm here, I can either click the new icon to create a new style, or I can go to my panel options and I can choose new object style is there as well. So either way, what's going to happen is it's going to open up a new object style dialog box. There may be a little bit of a delay, so just use your patience until it pops up. At first, it may look a little overwhelming. There are a lot of settings here that I can choose. But once you start going through it, you'll realize that you understand and know what a lot of those settings are. So if I wanted to, I could choose a fill here. And I could do a fill color or a stroke. Maybe we do a stroke that's a little bit heavier weight so I can see this. I can do all kinds of other options here. I can do frame fitting options where I can fit the content proportionally, however you want to achieve that. And then we have effects down here as well. So I can put maybe transparency on there. We'll talk about more of that in a moment. We can do a drop shadow. I personally like, let's do the bevel and emboss. Now one of the things to think about here too is to use global light. Global light is something that many of these effects have, and it basically means your light source is going to come from the same consistent direction. This is something that you don't want to really mess up, especially if you're doing different types of shadows, because it will make it look really odd. It just is not going to feel right when you look at it. You want to stay consistent with your light source, and that would be to choose to use global light. That way all of my light sources at 120 degrees. I can change that, and if I do, they are all going to change. Okay, so it's going to change it throughout the entire document, every effect that's been applied. All right, so that's one way. And then I can, of course, type my name up here. I'll say class example 1. And I click OK. And here it is. So now if I create just a new frame, I can choose to apply that class example, and you can see it put the stroke and basically that bevel and emboss that I had pre-applied. If I had a picture there, it would fill the frame proportionally because that was another setting. Okay, so another way that I can apply this actually is to, instead of just kind of shooting in the dark, kind of just blindly choosing these options by doing a new and getting the box, I can actually take my frame and do some formatting out here. All right, so I'll do formatting on this container, and let's just do something very, very simple, like put a color on it. Okay, we'll just do something very basic, and let's put a stroke that's a little bit thicker. Okay, so we can at least see that there's some change. We'll tuck that back. So now that I have the formatted object, I can save this formatting as an object style by clicking on this object style panel button. And if I do new object style, oops, but I do need to have this selected so it knows what I'm talking about. Let's do new object style. And so in this case, you can see, let's just navigate up here. It has my fill color, it has my stroke weight, so it remembered those settings that I had applied. So this is a way that you can create it visually and then do a new object style. And when that dialog box opens, you'll see that all of that formatting that you applied to this frame will then be activated in that dialog box. So here's the one I just created. Now if I have this selected, I can change and I can apply these with these selected objects, and it's a very nice way to apply formatting. So those are object styles. Now if we wanted to edit one of these styles, let's just say I wanted to edit this last one and change the fill color, I can select the object on the page and, you know, like I just said, apply these different ones. But what if I want to change everyone that I have done this style has the style applied to it? So I'm going to double click. It opens that dialog box again, and now I can change. So if I say I want to have this be blue instead of the magenta, I want it cyan, click OK. Even though it wasn't selected, it changed. And if I had 10 other ones on 20 different pages, you know, same thing. If I had them spread apart my entire document, it's going to update all of those with that style applied. So very nice to work with. If I wanted to delete one of these styles, basically I click the trash can, and it will ask me if I have a style that is being used, what I want to do with those objects. Do I want to go back to a basic frame, or should I maybe put the class example, another defined object style? So it'll ask you what you want to do. If you don't get this dialog box, that means that that object style was not applied anywhere. Okay. Let's see here. Let's go up to our effects panel one more time. I'm going to click a frame here. This one has the effects applied to it, but we also have something that many of you know, and it's called blending mode. So something that's probably familiar with from Photoshop, a way that I can interact my overlapping objects. Illustrator has this as well. Basically, most of the Adobe products have blending mode somewhere. So like I said, it just affects how these things overlapping are going to interact with each other. The easiest probably is to go with simple. Oops, let's grab this one. The two most commonly used, this one has a fill. Let's click this one and put a white fill in it. Okay, that's my paper color, because remember, we're all about print, so it's the paper color. It's not a fill of none. Basically what's going to happen if I printed this, this part would be punched out of my background. But now if I select this, basically my blending mode is how this is going to interact with what's below it. The most common blending modes are multiply. You can see multiply has been applied. Multiply basically makes all the white areas of a graphic transparent, and black stays black. Screen is the inverse. So you can see that where I had my black frame, I can now see through that. So black areas become transparent, but white remains the same. So those are really the two, multiply and screen. Those are the two most commonly used.